Hey everyone, Amir here. Just wanted to give a little bit of an intro before the intro, a little introception. Just to give some context, this is actually the first podcast we ever recorded about a month ago. Even though it is dated, we believe the conversations we had are still relevant to what's going on today. So I hope you enjoy. Peace.
Yeah, but we're just trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to spell it.
Should I intro the podcast?
Are we doing a jingle?
Huh?
Welcome to Cousin Connection.
We should do. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cousin Connection podcast. My name's Amir, and her name is
Sarah.
This is a podcast where we're going to talk about interesting topics and life lessons we've learned in our 28 years of life.
You don't sound like that.
I could sound like that. You can't start a podcast during COVID and not talk about like the main thing.
Is that our first topic?
Yeah, like I know
Right.
I had the other topic I mentioned a couple weeks ago when we were first
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? It's already past that month. I'm gonna just hold it off maybe
We'll
for a couple
revisit.
podcasts. We'll
Yeah.
revisit that exactly. I won't mention it yet, just so it's something we can keep for another episode. But
Yeah.
I feel like you have to mention or talk about COVID in the times that we're in. So
Aren't you sick of I'm so over the whole conversation of
mhm.
how's life in quarantine? Like, are we?
Oh no, but we can talk about like the positives of quarantine. Like, okay, so
Yeah, you're like one of the only people that I know who speaks about being in quarantine in a positive light and
Yeah.
isn't talking about going crazy. So
yeah.
shed some light on
Because of course there are people who couldn't really or really suffered from COVID because they had family
of
members
course.
who could catch it, or they lost their job and they couldn't work. But I feel like Canada kind of took care of at least the individuals. They took care of the individuals. The businesses, there's a whole lot that we can have that conversation
Y'all
about.
can't
like,
see my
businesses.
face right now.
Okay, she's giving me like a little bit of stank eye about that. But like
really,
they gave,
really,
you know,
nigga, really,
they gave like $2,000 checks for individuals. I don't know how
per
it worked.
month, $2,000 per month.
Some people were getting that
Okay.
much before.
And then apparently,
Mhm.
I don't know, I haven't really done my research on this, but
Mhm.
Trudeau is apparently asking for that money back, which makes no sense.
No, I think he's only asking it for it back from people who actually were working at the time and still received CERB.
How?
I need
Don't
to look into that.
You were able to apply even though you were working?
I think so. Or maybe like
Damn, I missed out on
maybe
that.
they had like a part-time job and they thought they still weren't making enough, or their hours were cut,
You
so
have
they
to
still
put in
needed
your
it.
social insurance number. Can't they tell like your income and all that? I honestly, I have no idea because I unfortunately was
Mhm.
not, I'm just kidding. I wasn't able to do it because I was still
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. No, but I think the point that I was trying to make is that like, let's say
Yeah,
you were
Canada
taking
did a
care
better
of
job than America.
Yeah,
like
but
always.
also let's say you were taken care of financially, you were fine. Like the only thing that COVID really affected was your social life. There was a lot of things you could take advantage of at the time. Like I'm naturally an introvert, so I feel like COVID kind of went hand in hand with like my personality of
Yeah,
staying
but
inside.
if you think about that,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a rare, like, you have to be so lucky to be in that position because
Yeah, yeah.
not a lot of people were able to keep their job,
Yeah.
not be like impacted health wise,
Mhm.
and just affect their social life. Like if their social life was the only thing that deteriorated during COVID,
Yeah.
consider yourself lucky. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately for the both of us, we both got COVID. I actually got it
Oh,
from
yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
You're already gonna call us out like that? Like
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Don't worry, we're COVID free now. We don't have anything. No, but what I was gonna say is that okay, so let's say when COVID started, where were you?
Okay, so I went to Turkey and Dubai in like the end of October, beginning of November.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we came back from that trip, me and Hanan and Nabat like got
Mhm.
really sick, but we were just like, whatever, like it happens every time you come back from a just change in climate.
Yeah.
We ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
I went on about my life, and I remember I was at work, like it was like maybe like mid-January,
Mm-hmm.
and someone said coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that like some new internet
Oh yeah,
fad?
I remember it was called coronavirus when it first
Yeah,
started.
it was called
It
coronavirus.
had different names. Like there was COVID-19, coronavirus. There was a different name.
There was another name. I mean,
I'm
we all
forgetting
know
it now.
Trump called it Chinese
Oh
virus
yeah,
'cause he's
maybe that's what I
racist.
was thinking of. The Chinese virus,
Super
the Kung
racist.
flu.
Oh my god, I've never heard of the Kung Flu.
That's what he called. He literally called that on live TV in the press room.
How the hell was he
I
in
don't know,
power?
man.
Like
That-
I just don't understand. But anyway,
Trump is a whole other conversation.
Yeah, like, we're just gonna. So, I heard my coworker mention coronavirus.
Mhm.
I'm really ignorant. Like I
Yeah.
choose to not watch.
What
I
months
chose-
was this in though?
This was in January.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like starting to pick up traction.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch the news. I chose not to watch the news because
Yeah.
I feel like it's just very biased and like if I want to know something, I'll do my own research. I'm not gonna just watch CNN or whatever, like some biased news channel.
Yeah.
So I was like, coronavirus, is that like some internet thing? He's like, are you living under a rock? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, there's literally this whole like virus that's affecting China, and like
Mm-hmm.
they're afraid that it's coming to North America.
Yeah.
Then February comes around, and like I was still living like everyone was still normal in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was really late until like it legit, like there was a proper lockdown, mask and all and everything.
Yeah, it wasn't until like this exact time last year,
Mm-hmm.
the first week of March,
Yeah.
that they started talking about like, they started putting up like hand sanitizing stations. I was like, okay, we'll sanitize our hands more often. And people are looking at you like, you're not going to wash your hands before you get a glass of water. Like, no, I didn't do it before. Why do I have to do it now?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, they're like, okay, everyone, you guys are getting laptops for work. And we're like, I was like, yes, I get to work from home. That's sick. So then second week.
Did you have the job before COVID, the one that you
Yeah.
have now? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you got that during COVID. Okay.
No. I got it like 4 months before. So I was still new to the job too. Okay, like I was still training and everything.
Yeah.
And then when they like gave us these, it all happened so fast. So they're like, okay, guys, we're just gonna like work from home for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sweet. Like
2 weeks.
see you
I
guys
remember
in 2 weeks. And I left everything at work.
Yeah.
Like literally my shoes,
Yeah.
some of my clothes that I kind of just like left that I would
Yeah,
change, the
yeah.
scarves or whatever, right? So I took some of my notes that I needed, and that was it. Then we obviously got updates like every like 3 days. Like
Yeah.
they would email us, and then eventually they're like, okay, guys, so like we're probably going to be working from home until like the end of April. And
Yeah.
we're like, okay, soft, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks,
Yeah.
we can do that. Then it just continued and kept getting pushed back and kept getting pushed back.
Mhm.
Then we're like in this full on lockdown where like we just don't leave our houses, and I'm like, wait, is this for real? Like, I'm not saying I didn't believe in it,
Yeah.
but it was just like it all happened so fast, and I just didn't understand like what it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
how you get it.
Yeah, like I was, it sort of, so for me, when it was around maybe like February when we started hearing, when I started really paying attention to this whole COVID thing going down.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a week where I was sick, but I wasn't like COVID sick. I think I just had like a runny nose or something. But I remember my work forcing me to wear a mask at work.
What?
Yeah, this is before like everyone was wearing masks, right?
Oh.
So I started wearing a mask, and I was like joking around about it because I didn't know how serious it was at the time. And I don't know if you remember, but I had a trip planned for LA to meet Gizmo.
Oh my god, me too.
Yeah.
My trip got canceled. I
But
just
mine-
remembered that. You went
I
right.
literally
like,
went. Okay, so
Wow,
I left March 9th on the plane.
hold up.
hmm
You literally left like the week
A
before.
day, literally a day before. Like I landed in
Did
America.
you know though? Like you knew about COVID at that point.
I knew about COVID, but I didn't take it seriously at that point. Like I thought like the whole 2 week thing would just be 2 weeks.
Yeah, me too.
So I went to LA, and literally the day after I landed, I think Trump was on the TV and he was talking about COVID and telling everybody to like, social distance and all that, but they weren't saying to wear masks yet. So we didn't know what to do. And I also happened to go literally on the worst week in LA.
Yeah.
When I say the worst week,
it was raining, right?
it was raining every single
I
day for
remember.
24 hours of the day. There was one day for 6 hours where it didn't rain, and
only 6 hours.
yeah, it was only 6 hours, and we took those 6 hours because Gizman at that point lived near Universal Studios.
Right.
So we took those 6 hours. I went with like a couple of her friends, a couple of my friends. Or actually, no. It was just me, Gizman,
And Nabil.
Nabil. Exactly.
Love how-
Exactly.
Guys, by the way, I
Mhm.
was supposed to be on this trip.
Yeah, you were.
Remember? I was supposed
But then
to be
you
part of
guys
that music
rebooked to
video.
go like a month later or something.
Yeah, because like I said, I was new for work. And
Yeah.
I remember I was like,
Oh, you didn't want to
should I
like take the
go?
vacation so early.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I literally, my trip was planned like for Easter weekend.
Yeah.
And so when I saw you go, I was like, okay, Amir
Mhm.
seems to be going out and about, so it should be fine when I go
Yeah.
in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Little did we know.
Little do we know. And then
Your trip got cut short though, right?
that's the thing. So when we really knew, I think this is when everyone knew it was a real thing, is when the NBA got canceled. They're not
yeah.
canceled, but like they
They
put it on
stopped,
hold. They
yeah.
stopped it. And thankfully that was like, I think, actually no, that was a day after the NBA, because Universal Studios was still open. And that day that we left, like literally 2 hours after we left, they said all parks were closed. So and the thing is, I was like so sad because I was supposed to go to Disney World the next day.
You really
or
thought.
Disneyland.
You really thought.
I know, but I was like, and then my dad called that same day, like the NBA was closed down. He's like, you better come home now, like take your rebook your flight, whatever. And of course, at this point, I still wasn't taking it fully seriously. So I was like, nah. Even Gizmo and me were like, nah. You know what? Let's if
They're
he's
just being
gonna
dramatic.
be quarantined anywhere for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
he might as well stay in LA. And just chill here, even though the weather wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
At least it was like outside of the city, I could relax there
Right.
and just like regroup and everything. So I stayed there for the week or a week and a half or something like that.
Oh.
And
You actually made it to a week? I thought you
yeah,
left
I made
earlier
it.
than
Like, but there was, of course, on the news every day they were saying borders might close,
Oh,
and we didn't realize what that
yeah.
meant. We thought like we took it to the max. We were like, oh, maybe they won't even let me back into Canada from how bad it was.
what would have happened though? Like, had you stayed longer, would they just not let you? Leave
no,
LAX?
they would let any Canadians in. They just wouldn't let in Americans, right?
Oh, okay.
But still, at this point, I don't think anyone remembers, but like we weren't wearing masks for a while, like at least outside.
You didn't wear a mask when you were
On my way back, I didn't wear a mask.
on the plane?
Yeah, I didn't wear a mask when coming back
Weren't you
because
scared?
it wasn't mandatory. I didn't even have a mask. I didn't know where to get a mask at
Did
that
other
point.
people wear masks on the plane? Was it empty?
There were
Was your
people.
plane-
There were people wearing masks, but it wasn't
Oh.
made mandatory at that point.
But was your plane like emptier, or were there still like a lot of people?
No, it was full because if you think about it,
Oh,
all the Canadians
my.
in America
Oh,
are scared and they
yeah.
want to go back.
True.
So I went on the plane, went from like to Calgary, and then came from Calgary to Toronto, and it was almost like a complete 180. Because when I left, everybody was
Yeah.
still in the office. All people were still in the office. It was still sort of like up in the air what was going to happen. No one was really sure what was going to happen. Moment I came back, it was automatically you go home. I had my work laptop already at home, and just work from home 100%. Like not even going into the
you
office
didn't even
for
like
anything.
transition. You just went.
No, went straight from seeing a full office to
Yeah.
seeing an empty office. Well, not really even seeing the empty office, just working from home
Right.
until they figured it out. And we thought it was just going to be 2 weeks. And then, of course, it continued to extend and extend.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was the initial experience of COVID, or like exactly how it was brought down on us all at once. Or it seemed
I
like it
was
was
in
brought down all
denial.
at once.
I
You were
was
in
in-
denial too, right?
I didn't cancel my ticket until
Yeah, you guys didn't cancel for a while.
because I saw you there and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, fine. Like he seems to be, going
Yeah.
out and about, so
Yeah.
we're not going to cancel our ticket. Like
Mhm.
maybe the 2 weeks will be up and we'll be good.
Yeah.
And then I think we booked it with like Expedia or something, but they
Mhm.
ended up canceling the whole trip,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were like, damn, like, and that was that would have been my first time going to LA, so you know how
Mhm.
sad I was. I was like
Yeah.
so bummed. But I ended up going back to LA to LA later last year.
Yeah, when the rules were a lot more relaxed, because I think I went back too, right? Did I go back?
You
again
went
second time?
after me. We never went at the same time. We always
Yeah, we never did.
took turns, but I
Yeah.
went in. Did I go in October again?
I honestly can't remember even when I went. Oh shit! I just realized I
What?
completely forgot about the whole fiasco of like actually getting to LA. How it took me like 14 hours.
Wait.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. That's how traumatic it was. But like,
No, wait. When you came back
yeah.
in March,
Mhm.
weren't you like stuck somewhere?
No. It was when going to LA, I got stuck. So essentially, we were flying to LA. It was already 5 hours into flight. We were like basically over LA, and for some reason they're like, we have to turn around. They didn't even explain why they had to turn around, but they went back to Las Vegas, which is like another 30 minutes to an hour.
This was when you went in March?
Yeah, this is when I went in March.
Oh.
And I thought, now I'm thinking about it, maybe it's because of COVID. Like there's a lot of planes trying to leave. I don't know what's going on. But we landed in Las Vegas, and they're like, okay, we're going to refuel here, check the plane, and we'll leave in like 30 to 45 minutes. And then after 30, 45 minutes, they're like, okay, guys, we're going to have to extend this by another 30 minutes. And then after that 30 minutes, they extend it again.
Did you stay on the plane this entire time?
That's the thing. We stayed on the plane for 7 hours. 7 hours on our seat.
No.
But thankfully, because at this point, people were unsure about traveling,
yeah.
and I was dumb enough to actually travel still, the plane was fairly empty. So all I did was I got up from my seat, I went to the back of the plane, found 3 rows of seats, or like the 3 seats next to each other that were empty, pulled up all the
Yeah.
handles, and just slept there. And even
7 hours.
yeah, I
though?
slept for 2 or 3 hours and woke up and still waited like 2 more hours.
Did they give you food?
They came
probably-
around with snacks. They didn't even give us meals.
Like what kind? Did they give you pretzels?
Yeah, they gave us pretzels. They basically gave us
Almonds?
whatever was in the plane.
Salted almonds.
Yeah, because we were on the tarmac, so they couldn't bring food to the plane. Like we weren't.
They didn't let you like.
Or actually, no, we were
docked
taxied
or
in, we were
whatever,
docked,
taxied in, whatever.
but for some reason they never brought food for us. I think because
can
maybe
you not like?
that's what we
sue
thought. We thought we
them?
could sue them. And I was like, you know
I
what?
bet you
It's not
everyone
even worth
started talking
it.
on the plane. You're looking over like, hey, you think we can sue them for this? Like,
There were people who were talking like that.
Really?
They were getting really frustrated because there was a baby on the plane too.
oh my god.
Yeah, and
I can
thankfully
only
they had food
imagine.
for the baby. Everybody's like looking at that food on the plane. Like, yo, you got any extra?
Don't you buy snacks for the plane? Honestly, I learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah,
I bring snacks.
yeah. I think I had a little bit of food before I jumped on the plane. I had like a protein shake and of course I had a protein
That's
shake.
not food.
No, I had a protein shake and a burrito. Burritos are pretty filling. Burritos are
That's not a snack. That's a meal.
yeah,
Oh.
because I knew that I wasn't gonna get a meal for another 5 hours.
Yeah, but that's not what I thought of when I thought like when I say bring a snack, like
Mhm.
you know, you stop by like Tim Hortons or Starbucks.
Oh
and
no
pick
no
up
no no
something.
no! For a 5 hour
A
flight,
whole burrito,
of course.
a whole like a burrito boys burrito.
Yeah, I got like the one they call huge or whatever.
Oh, I
It's
know
like
what you're talking
1,400
about.
calories.
I know what you're talking about. Oh my god.
No, but yeah, that's but okay, so I guess the main point was, so after the initial shock of COVID, I was like, okay, so now we have all this free time. Like before COVID, a lot of my extra time was dedicated to like going to the Islamic Center
Mm.
to work on the sound system there and
Forcefully hanging out with me.
yeah, that too.
Yep.
And just hanging out with people in general.
Yep.
But now you could focus on yourself a lot more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, since I'm very introverted, I'm also very self-aware and I like contemplate a lot. That's why when I go on my walks every day, like here, I tell you guys to go on walks, because when I go on my walks, I don't listen to anything for 90% of it, because I'm usually just contemplating, just thinking about things, thinking about past, and it can be overwhelming at times, like where if you're hyper self-aware, you can overthink certain situations, and like you might leave a conversation and be like thinking about 1,000 different ways it could have gone.
Like, oh, I should have said this.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, why did I say it like that? Why did I act like that? So you start to think
Yeah.
like that. So there is a balance that you need there. But at
have
least,
you always been?
yeah,
this
I've
self-aware?
always been.
Did we just
self-aware.
not talk about it? I don't think we ever spoke about it before.
No. Yeah, I think it stemmed from like the fact that I was super quiet when I was growing up. But as a child, like, because I didn't speak for the first 3 years of my life. I don't know. Maybe it stems from like some childhood thing.
I wouldn't say you were super quiet. Maybe not around us because we're
When I'm talking about early, I mean
early childhood.
like 0 to 3. Because
Yeah.
I didn't speak for those first 3 years.
You were like mute for the first 3 years. You weren't mute, but like you just chose not to.
Yeah, I
speak.
just choose not to speak, basically. I think that's what mute is, right? Like
Did
you can
you-
speak, but you just choose not to.
No,
No?
I
I
think
feel like it's like a mental block. But then like
I
eventually
think you
can
want
get
to
over it.
speak, but you
Yeah.
can't.
Oh, okay.
It's not that you don't. It's not that you choose not to. I think it's like
Mhm.
you can't speak.
Okay, I always thought that was just someone who's like, yeah, I guess, okay, yeah, that makes more sense then.
Imagine the power of like choosing not to speak. The power
Mm-hmm.
where you could have spoken, but you
That
chose
makes sense.
not
I
to.
saw a TikTok of a guy who said he was mute for like the first 12 years of his life.
Whoa.
But because of that, once he started speaking again, now anytime he does speak, everyone pays attention to him.
Oh my god,
Because-
that's amazing.
Because like they're still so shocked by it that
Mm.
they feel like whatever he says must be important, or they just put more importance on whatever he says.
Yeah.
So, there's some benefit to it,
I mean, it's only 3
except
years.
for the whole developmental issues. Exactly.
Yeah, but that's cool.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I think the thing you can take from that is that maybe speaking less and listening more. Going
Listen,
back.
we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Not everybody follows that, but you know.
Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, these days it's not like that at all. Mhm.
But like, how do you feel like? Because if you've always been self-aware, like,
Mhm.
what were the positive impacts that came out of?
Oh, you can
COVID.
when you're self-aware. So I started seeing like, okay, I have this time, and what are the things I need to improve in my life? So like everyone knows me for working out, being very
Yep.
physically active.
Mm-hmm.
But there's two sides. There's a physical part of your development, and there's also the mental part of your development.
Don't forget emotional.
And
I guess
emotional.
It's part of mental, but
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm putting those two together.
All right, fine.
So I worked a lot on the physical, but not a lot on the mental. So I was still like very mentally stunted in a way, like as a child kind of thing. So I wanted to evolve. I was like, what actions can I take now with all this extra time that I have to develop mentally? So thankfully I already, so my first step towards that was reading. So something I can do that apparently not a lot of people can do is I like walking and reading.
That is so dangerous. I don't know how you do it.
You do it all the time.
I almost got hit by a car because I was reading a text while walking.
Don't you use your phone when you're walking?
No, I just said I almost got hit by a car.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm walking on the sidewalk and not crossing a lot of streets. Okay, that's why.
Okay, but still, you don't step on a crack or like trip over one?
No, I actually had never have tripped while reading, and I've never bumped into anyone either. I think it's because there's not a lot of people outside right?
But like, aren't you distracted? Like, you're not actually absorbing what you're reading because
no,
you're
I'm fully absorbing it. Yeah,
looking up and like looking back down.
No. I feel like I've never had an issue with it now. I've been able to finish like 6 books that way by just walking and reading. So like the first book I had, I just happened to see it first. First, I was like, let me start from a religious sense. So and it wasn't even related to anything mentally. I think it was just to get me in a certain headspace. I read a book called The Lives of Man, which is basically talks about like the life of a human from before birth to like after death.
Oh.
And it was a really good book. I think I got it with Hassan once at one of my friends or cousins. Hassan, friend, cousin.
You're just going to give him that cousin title?
Huh?
You're just going to give him that cousin title?
Let's just say Hassan the person. But I got it with him at a mosque one day, and I just had it on the shelf for like a good year. And I just picked it up, started reading it, because I wanted to get first into that like mode of reading.
You're just trying to like build the habit?
Yeah, build the habit essentially. Because the thing that at least I benefit from working out a lot of my early life is that I built a good discipline with like my eating habits, my working out habits, like being active. But yeah, you build a good discipline when you have a routine like that, where you're trying to keep yourself physically active all the time or physically fit. So I was able to take those practices that I've learned and kind of apply them to what I was doing now. So I would dedicate every day, no matter what, I'll dedicate at least an hour to walking and reading.
You walked for a whole hour?
Yeah. So every day I would walk. Initially, before I started the whole reading process, because I had no gym, I would be running every day, right? So I would run for 30 minutes around every single day, and I actually lost a lot of weight that way. But running and walking, honestly, as long as you're doing cardio, it's good. So I tried to mold these two things together, which was the reading that I was trying to do and the walking. And I started reading that book. And then the next book I read was called Quiet, which is talking about introverts, because I identify as an introvert, and I wanted to understand what it means to me be an introvert and why I might think this way. So I started reading that book, and that was also a book that was given to me by Hassan. So shout out to Hassan.
You know what, though? Okay, just to diverge for a sec. Anyone who knows you in a social aspect would not agree that you're an introvert, because you've never, like, I know you well enough to say, yeah, he's an introvert. But you have this ability to be so social too. Yeah. Like, you're not the introverted introvert. I feel like you're an extroverted introvert. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And if you read the book, that will, there'll be examples of that.
Do you have the book still?
I think I gave it back to Hassan, actually.
Damn, okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to contact him and be like, so.
I might be seeing him like tomorrow or something, so we'll see. I might be able to
see if you can hit him up and be like, can Sada borrow this book?
No, but it was a really good book to understand first the differences between introverts and extroverts, and then it goes deeper into what an introvert is and the different types of introverts, and how at face value you might not think that they're an introvert, but truly they are. So I read that book and it made me understand why I might think certain ways. But then the next book I read was called Emotional Intelligence.
That's a great topic.
It's really good, because having
topic.
Emotional intelligence is something that a lot of people lack these days.
Oh God. We're having a whole episode about this one day.
Honestly, like when I read this book, because a lot of the things, the practices I read in that book are things that I already kind of did myself unknowingly. And I think that's why in social aspects I can seem very extroverted. It's because I'm self-aware enough to understand the situation I'm in and I'm like, okay, how can I supplement this situation, like make it better? And I feel like making it better is by being more open, being more talkative,
You're just
being
a good
more
time.
Exactly.
Like you use your energy, like the positive energy, to make sure that everyone around you is having a good time. 'Cause
Exactly.
I remember all those times we would
Mhm.
like, if I would vent to you,
Mhm.
if I would complain,
Mhm.
all you'd say is, "It's okay, just be happy." And I'm like, that's not what I want to hear.
I
Right
know.
now. Like,
I can be annoyingly optimistic at times.
but it's needed.
Yeah.
Not all the time,
Yeah.
but it's needed a lot of the time.
Mhm. But I am still a realist. Like I'm very realistic about situations.
Yeah, like I feel like sometimes like we'll have like I'll just talk to you about something,
Yeah.
and we'll actually talk about it.
Yeah.
It's only times that like if we're going out and something annoys me and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't even want to
Yeah.
go anymore, and you're like, don't worry, it's fine. Like,
Yeah, like because I know I'm talking a lot about books because it's literally like the person that I was before COVID and the person I am now. I think it's the same but very different at the same time. Because
who are the authors of the two books that you read, by the way? The first one about do you know?
Susan Cain is the one of Quiet,
Okay.
and of Emotional Intelligence. It's David. Shoot, I'm forgetting his name now. But,
Look it up if you can.
David Coleman. Yeah, David Coleman. That's his name. So those two books are the ones that, from a mental aspect, at least let me understand what's going on. And then, of course, after you read those, you kind of try and put it into practice. But yeah, that was what I benefited from COVID. Like I started focusing more on my mental, and now I'm kind of working on those things. And I feel like COVID, if you are in a place where you can take advantage of the time that you have now, because of course everyone doesn't have that advantage. There's a lot of benefit that you can get from it, especially if you don't have someone calling up your phone all the time and telling you to go out here and there, help you with this and that. You take that extra time. That's why I'm always like, how do you not have, when people say I'm bored, I get so confused. I'm like, how are you bored? There's so much you can do, so much you can learn. This world has so much knowledge that you can
because you don't know what you don't know. Like, you don't know what, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like,
what?
If you don't have an interest in learning a new thing, you're not going to just actively be like, let me just go on Google and search something up real quick.
Yeah, I guess it is a mindset in a way. Like,
yeah,
I have to, because I have to also be aware of, like, not everyone is like you. Not everyone thinks like you.
Oh my God, that was a lesson that I learned in 2020.
Mm-hmm. See, and you'd be surprised how people that are close to you, like, how different they may think from you. You might have thought of them in one way, but they actually think in a completely different way. COVID has exposed that in a lot of people that I have seen, like on social media, when it comes to the reaction to COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I benefited from. So what's changed about you then?
Honestly, I think I pretty much did the same thing. I just used different things. Like, you learned a lot from books. I learned a lot from podcasts.
Oh, you started listening to podcasts finally?
Podcasts and like YouTube videos. Not just like vlogs, but like actual like educational videos. And I did like some research where I was reading articles and stuff.
Yeah.
But I I went into 2020 already knowing that was going to be my goal. Like, I didn't know about that COVID was going to hit us 3 months later.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I knew that like 2020 was the year that I was truly going to focus on my mental health, my emotional health, and just like bettering my, like, just the inside more than the outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was always so focused on the external part of me, but it's like, you can beautify your external beauty so much, but you could be broken and like empty on the inside.
And there are a lot of people like that these days.
So I was like, you know what? Like, I had a tough year in 2019. Like, let me just like actually invest in myself. So I really got into podcasts, and it's like, I don't just listen to them and be like, that was nice, and then go about my day. Like, I actually would sit there and like really take in what was said. Like, and I listened to so many different types, like not just ones from like I listened to one of my favorite ones is actually, it's called the Mental Makeover podcast by Lauren Curtis. It's funny because she's a beauty guru from Australia, but she like is so into mental health, and I loved hers. There was a few other ones too that I listened to, but I took different perspectives from different people. Like, everyone had different backgrounds, and I felt like I picked out all the things that I was able to apply to myself. And like, I always felt guilty talking about quarantine in 2020 in a positive light because so many people were suffering. But it's also like, I didn't want to feel like I was downplaying my success in terms of like bettering my mental health.
Yeah.
Because of the discomfort of other people, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't want to push myself down just to make other people around me feel better.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I used to do that a lot. Like, if I was good and someone else was like, oh, like, I'm having a shitty day.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Even though I wasn't. Like,
yeah.
And it was so like, why did I do that? I don't know. So I've always been in tune with I've always been self-aware. But I feel like there was a good chunk of my like late teens, early 20s where I was like hyper self-aware, where I was like self-conscious now about everything.
Yeah.
And I questioned everything I did. I was never sure. And I feel like to this day, like I still have like remnants of it that I'm still working on. But it was like such a thing that I was working on last year. And I didn't realize it until last year that like, you can't just say I'm working on myself and just leave it as it is. Like, it's actual work. You know what I mean? And you actually have to try, and it's not like a 1 day, 1 week, 1 month thing. Like, it's active work. Like, you're doing it on a constant basis. You're doing like the mental check-ins. You're doing, you know, like, if I'm feeling a negative feeling, why am I feeling this way and how can I change that? It's not just let me overreact and like deal with the problem later. Like, no, it's more so of like having a healthy reaction to certain things. Is it okay to get mad? Yeah. Is it okay to get sad? Of course. But you have to take the lessons out of like, if you're sad, why are you sad? What caused you to be this way? What triggered that emotion? How can you know, if you're trying to avoid it, or if you're trying to not necessarily avoid it, but if you're trying to like react to it in a healthy way and like gain experience and like lessons from that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was trying to do that type of work with myself. And I feel like I now to this day, like, I'm so happy with who I am, so comfortable with who I am, more than I've ever been. And sometimes it like takes going through some shit experience.
And you went through some shit.
It happens. It's life. I feel like we could talk about that another day, but you know, that though, like, as shitty as it was, I'm so thankful, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have put in all the work that I did now, because I neglected myself that entire period. And it wasn't until I got out of that experience to be like, oh shoot, like, I'm a whole person. I'm not a broken person. I'm a whole person. I just need to put the work in myself.
Yeah. And I think anyone who's listening to this probably benefit from what you just said by saying, basically doing a self-audit every once in a while.
Yes.
Of like seeing,
that is so important.
Auditing your reactions to things, how you treat other people or how you've treated people in situations, like kind of just looking over what you've done in the past and how you could have done it better, or maybe
I love doing that.
Yeah, like it's something that's basically what being self-aware is, right?
Yeah.
Being aware of your actions and trying to change the ones that are negative and maybe highlight the ones that are positive and make them better. So,
but you also have to be someone who's willing to accept that you've made a mistake and correct it.
Yeah.
Not that many people. Some people. I'm not gonna say not that many. Some people don't know how to do that. Maybe it's because they just believe that their way is correct all the time. To each their own, you know, but you're not always right.
Yeah, and
no one's always right.
Yeah, we know a lot of examples, you know, but
yes,
there are people who are in their ways, you know, you can't really get them out of those, but you always try and treat that person, of course, with respect. Basically do the classic thing of treat them how you'd like to be treated.
Yeah.
And just move on. Basically, like, don't let it control you, you know, don't let it affect you, your mental what would you call it, your mental state. Yeah, in a way, like, don't let it affect emotional state.
But that's hard too. Like, imagine like, you have to be strong within yourself to not let the negative energy of someone else affect you. Yeah, because if I came in and I was like super down, I don't know about you, but like, I'm very empathetic, so I take on the energy of other people. So, and it's tough because if someone that I'm close to comes to me and they're upset and they're telling me something, I'm now going to take on that emotion and I get invested, like, yeah, let's go take action. You know? You know what I mean? So, and that, it's like, if you're not strong within yourself, that starts to take a toll on your own mental health.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're sort of different. Like you mentioned earlier, whenever someone comes to me like that, I try to immediately bring up their spirits in a way, like tell them to look to the positive, what they might learn from the situation.
I do that now.
Yeah, but like,
But I still take on their emotions.
you still feel it. Like you feel it
Yeah.
happening back on, but you have to be aware of it and control that and try and tune it down.
But before, it used to like really impact me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would bother me. Like it was I was going through it
Mhm.
too. Like, oh, you broke up with your boyfriend?
Yeah.
We broke up with your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Like we both feeling that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh no, I wouldn't go that far.
No, but that's how it was. And then
Yeah.
I would like go through the motions. Like I'm here listening to breakup songs. Like,
Really? Oh no, no, that's too far, man. You can't be doing that.
I'm like, why am I sad? I don't even have a boyfriend. Why am I sad?
No. I guess because maybe you can relate it to something that's happened to you in the past, but still, they can't let that affect you in that way.
I don't know. Like even like with like the
Mhm.
work that I do, sometimes like if you're talking, like I'm talking to clients and they're crying because of a sob story.
Yeah.
When I first started, I didn't know how to like handle it, so I'd cry with them on the phone, and I'm like,
What?
oh my god, this is so
At
unprofessional.
work?
Yes.
Mm.
And I'd have to take like a good 5 minutes to like
Yeah.
compose myself.
Wait, what do you do again? I thought you were in HR.
I work in pensions.
With pensions?
Pensions, yeah. So like
Okay.
sometimes it's like older people.
Yeah.
And like they have different reasons to cry, right?
Yeah,
Like, you know,
yeah.
sometimes they just don't have enough money.
Yeah.
They get a divorce,
Yeah.
someone dies, something
Mhm.
sad. and they-
Okay.
They cry, they vent to you on the phone, and
Mhm.
you're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Okay. So I guess how we can wrap this all up is that
We're different, but we're the same.
yeah, we're different but the same. But in general, when it comes to the being self-aware, so like what we've learned, I guess, to be more self-aware,
Yep.
do more emotional audits or mental audits of your actions.
both,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's a physical aspect, but I'll go into that another day where we're talking about like working out and all that stuff, because I know I bore you guys all about how I'm working
No,
out.
it's actually, you know what? I
Mhm.
actually really admire how passionate you are about that.
You know,
like, I'm always like, oh, I need to be more like
I'll make a
Amir.
whole other conversation about that.
I need to be more like him. Like,
Mhm.
dang, you know?
Okay, so now we've talked about our personal dealings with COVID.
Mm.
So let's talk about like the general reaction to COVID,
Mm-hmm.
mainly from how the government reacted
Yeah.
and then how the people reacted to how the government reacted. So initially, like we were talking about, we didn't know what was going on. So at first the government was saying don't wear masks and save those for like the healthcare workers.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
my god, do you remember when there was a shortage of masks?
yeah, and
like,
everybody
medical
was trying to
supplies?
find them and where to buy them. Like
Yeah.
there were people who literally hit me up because they knew that I was an essential worker. Like I'm a technician, but I
Oh.
work with waste management,
Yeah.
and there's always going to be waste management needed. So like
True.
I technically had an essential job, so we got masks right away. I already had masks. I had the N95, like the really tough one that goes around your face and it's like
Yep.
it almost constricts your breathing. And people were calling me, being like, "Yo, can you get me one of those masks?"
Oh my god.
And I didn't know it was that serious. I was like, "Okay, I'll try." But
they
then
probably thought like, yo, I have a plug that can get me N95.
that's what, I was like, "Okay, I'll help them out no matter what."
You
And
should
then
have sold them.
literally the next day I went to work. Like at that point it was already locked down. They're like, they knew that people were taking masks, so they're
Oh.
like, nah. And I was gonna give me like one or two people. I was gonna start selling them or whatever, just in case someone listens to
On
this.
the I'm dead.
Yeah. So initially he told us not to wear masks, and then they did the whole flip where they're like, okay, now you have to wear masks. And I think that was their
Mhm.
first big mistake, because they should have had that mask rule from day one.
But I think they were in denial just as much as we were.
They were, but unfortunately, that also made the people not trust the government as much. So whatever the government said after that, when they were changing the rules, because people don't realize, like the scientists were learning as we were learning. Like they
Exactly.
would learn something and give out that information right away, and then maybe a month later they realize, okay, maybe there's a little tweak we have to make the information we gave out.
Right.
So they'll maybe make the rules more tougher or relax them a little bit.
yeah.
But then at that point, you're losing the people's trust between the government or the doctors and the people. Like that trust there was starting to get thinner and thinner, because they were like, okay, just make up your mind. What are the rules we need here? And I feel like their initial response should have been like what New Zealand is doing.
I was just gonna say like they should have just been strict from the get go.
Exactly. Like New Zealand has that rule where they shut down everything to the point where you couldn't go.
Point.
Yeah, but you couldn't go
At one
anywhere.
person.
Yeah, for one person, but
yeah.
you literally couldn't go 500 meters outside of your radius.
500 meters.
Or I think it's like half a
5
kilometer, or maybe is it
I
5
know
kilometers?
That was Australia, where they
Yeah.
had like a 5-kilometer radius.
5-kilometer radius. Sorry, not 500 meters.
Yeah.
But and like literally everything was closed at that point. I don't know how grocery stores worked out.
They were able to go to a grocery store 5 kilometers in their radius. They couldn't go anywhere further.
Okay,
than that.
so that's how they contained it basically. But
Yeah.
I feel like they should have used, and they had a curfew, I think, too, right?
Yeah, they had a curfew.
Yeah, so I
It was
feel
at
like
8
those
p.m.
rules should have been in place from day one. Of course, because the doctors didn't know how severe this was, or at least they were still learning, they didn't know to put in those rules. But once they realized how severe it was, they should have put in those rules right away.
I mean, they were like reporting all of those people like in China who were suffering. Like, isn't that proof in itself?
I guess so. Yeah, that should have been proof enough.
Like,
But they were trying to play like both sides. They were trying to satisfy the people by not making them lose their business, but in the end, all they did was make it worse for those businesses because now what could have been maybe 3 months of a lockdown
yeah.
turned into it's a 1-year anniversary. Literally from the day we're recording, this has been like a 1-year anniversary from when it really started to go down. Like when I mean the first lockdown started.
But even then, like that first lockdown, I'll be honest with you, there were no like I didn't know what we were and weren't allowed to do. Like I just thought, okay, we're staying home, but we can still go to the grocery store. And like honestly, once you walk in, like yeah, okay, you'll line up in a meter apart.
Yeah.
The second you go inside, you're literally next to another person.
Exactly.
There's no social distancing. You know what I mean? Like it didn't make any sense. Like the lines were so blurred. Like
the grocery store thing is really what made me mad. Like not made me mad, but it was going against all the rules that they're putting out because
exactly.
if you go to a Walmart, the Walmarts are full of people and they're all like right next to each other waiting in line. There's you sometimes you do that awkward thing where they have the 6 feet rule and you look back and the person's like right up on your butt.
I miss Walmart. I haven't been there in a hot minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I go there every week and I never saw a change from before COVID for now, like how many people I see there.
They don't have the lines, don't they?
They do, but a lot of people don't even realize that they're standing so close to you. I feel like ultimately the government didn't do what they should have done, and all it did was make people mad over time and make them more not antsy, but like at this point they're like just open up everything. Even though COVID now is worse than the COVID that we had when we initially started, because now we have the variants. Like I was talking to someone who actually works in the hospitals. And the students are actually protesting in the hospitals because they don't want to work in the ICU units because there's so many variants that the gear that the students have, like the PPE the students have, isn't as robust as the PPE that the actual nurses have.
That's messed up.
Yeah, so if the students start working in the ICU, they're most likely going to get COVID, and they're going to get one of the variants, which might be even worse. Even though the variants are more I think they're just more infectious.
Wait, do the students get vaccinated? Because I know that most.
Yeah. Like now they're mostly vaccinated.
Are
for
you
the most
getting
part.
vaccinated?
Yes.
You
I
are?
am getting vaccinated. Yes. No. Okay.
What if you start twitching?
This is the one thing that COVID.
get, like,
I don't know what.
What if you end up getting Tourette's?
No, you'll be fine. Honestly, like I think this is the one thing that I don't know why people in this last year they just forgot how to think critically and think about the situation that we're in and how it doesn't make sense.
Anti-vaxxers existed way before COVID.
Yeah, and they were crazy then and they're crazy now.
You think they're crazy?
Yes.
Wait, why?
No, okay. So the thing is, vaccines, there are cases where people have had negative effects to the vaccine.
Yeah.
But there's so few cases of that actually happening. And the overall good that it does kind of outweighs that. Of course, you're still like people don't realize how bad COVID really is. Like there are people who are literally saying bye to their grandparents through FaceTime.
That's so sad.
Yeah, just think about that situation where you're like, you lived your whole life with your grandparents. They're like, you literally have to say bye. You know, we're not going to see you ever again on FaceTime. They close the FaceTime and they're dead. That's literally happening every day. And people don't realize that because they don't. I think people don't want to think about that when they're protesting against like these restrictions that we currently have. And it makes sense that they're protesting against these restrictions because this really is a negative. So basically, the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place essentially because they didn't take it serious enough initially.
Yeah.
That it prolonged this whole situation.
Right.
Because people say, oh, like they're trying to do this all for control. But if you look around the world, places like Australia, places like
Did you
New
hear what happened in
Zealand.
Texas?
Yeah, they opened up everything.
They don't even have to wear masks anymore.
They literally have no more restrictions.
But they still have cases.
Exactly. So now it's going to be a lot worse there.
But like,
And-
how is he even able to do that?
Because the thing is, people don't realize how the U.S. government works is that the federal
Mhm.
government doesn't have the power people think they do, because it really comes down to the state laws.
They do say Texas is the Lone Star State. So
Exactly, and it is, and that's why, and that's how
They be
every state
moving
has such
different.
different rules. The reason all these states have such different rules is because each state is almost like its own country when it comes to its laws and rules and how they
It's
govern, or
so
not how
weird.
they govern, but it's sort of how they govern. But like federal government, they have to, in order to enforce any law across all of America, they have to go through Congress and go through the Senate. And it really depends on who controls the Senate and who controls Congress by what passes and what doesn't pass.
So basically, what you're saying is being president don't mean shit.
No, they can put in executive orders. But I believe, I'm not sure how it works, but I think the states also can decide whether they follow those executive orders and who's going to stop them really in the end.
That's messed up.
Yeah, so America is a whole situation when it comes to COVID, but overall, I feel like now the government's stuck between a rock and a hard place because they didn't do what they needed to do at the beginning, and now it's like, do we let the businesses still suffer until we can get everyone vaccinated, and that might even take longer because of all these anti-vaxxers that are coming out now, or do we have less deaths, like protect more people from actually dying? Yeah, so it's basically they're choosing between people dying and people having businesses or the economy.
Rights and freedoms.
Yeah,
as they like
it's
to
between
argue.
economy or people dying, and right now that's the choice that they have because
But both are suffering right now.
exactly. So that's why they're in a rock and a hard place. Like, who do you choose? Right now, the government is trying to play the middle. Like they're trying to play in the middle of that situation. They're not trying to go on either extreme because they're scared of the reaction of the people, and.
You know what? They
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, first of all, you know how in Toronto last year, like we were in a lockdown, and I'm using air quotes here.
Yeah.
But a lockdown, because
Yeah.
our lockdown was a joke for like the first 6 months from March onwards. And then they decided in like, what was it, like September or August, that they were going to open everything up.
No, it was actually earlier than that. It
It
was
was
like
early?
in
July?
June or something.
June or July.
Yeah, when
Like, I
basically
went
when
to
summer
a-
started.
I went to a full on like indoor wedding.
Yeah,
And we weren't wearing masks.
yeah,
And I was like, this is really weird.
yeah.
That they, you know what's weird though, is
Mhm.
that they had servers that brought food to us because we weren't able to like get up.
Yeah.
So when the servers came around,
hmm
everyone had to wear masks or else you wouldn't get food.
Yeah, and I think that's more of just a legality issue. Like, if the server gets sick, or if the server gets someone else sick, like maybe they'll say, oh, they were wearing a mask, they were following health protocols. You can't really sue us for that. So I feel like that all comes down to more just a legality issue.
But okay, like this is like a totally off topic, but
Mhm.
like if you're gonna do some sort of indoor event, whether it's a
Mhm.
wedding or whatever it is you're
Yeah.
trying to do, they're like, how effective are those rapid tests? Like, are they actually true?
The ones like to test if you have COVID.
Yeah, like they'll give you like a result in like an hour or whatever it is.
I believe they're pretty effective because
Are they?
Because right now, that's basically what all of the Hollywood studios use, right? And those places, like for them, getting a COVID case is, they think it's money, and they don't want to mess up the money. So
True.
if they're using those rapid tests to test their
like the people that are
the
working
people
on
that
the
are
set.
there, and also I think they actually do multiple tests. So sometimes they'll do a test that takes a little bit longer, but they'll do
Right.
that like a few days earlier.
Right.
And then they'll do a rapid test when you actually get there. So it's kind of like they're double checking in a way.
So then I think
Mm-hmm.
for like, because you know how everyone has that argument of like, okay, well, if you don't get vaccinated,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be restricted on what you can do.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't force people to take a vaccine, but
Mm-hmm.
you can force people to do a COVID test. You could do it like to
Yeah.
enter certain, like if they want to open things up and not force people to wear masks, okay. Do
Yeah,
this
that was-
rapid COVID test.
Yeah, exactly. That was the solution I was saying. Like, why don't they? I guess maybe it's because of a logistical issue, or maybe there's not enough of them. But why don't they have these COVID tests everywhere? Like, let's say you wanted to go somewhere, maybe because I guess you don't want to. It depends on how fast a rapid test is, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, how effective are they? Like, are they trustworthy? Are they reliable? Do you get an answer within 15 minutes, or is it like 2 hours, or like what is it? I don't
Yeah, I
even
feel
know.
like it's in the hour range, like 1 to 2 hours or something like that.
But if you're doing a wedding, you
Mhm.
can tell your guests, hey, You're all going to need to do a rapid COVID test before
But
you
who's going to pay for those rapid tests? Because those tests are not cheap.
Are they expensive?
They're expensive.
Well, that's the price to pay if you don't get vaccinated.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So you're thinking about like after, like let's say in a couple months from now, when more people are getting vaccinated.
I mean,
what they should do about
Canada's
people who don't
dropping
want
the
it.
ball. They're dropping the ball with
They
the
are.
vaccine.
They
So I don't even think we're going to be able to get vaccinated until the end of the year.
No, I say maybe midsummer.
Really?
Yeah, because they said September should be the time when they're fully like everyone is vaccinated for the most part.
That's
But you
really close.
But the thing is, not everyone has to get vaccinated, right? It's all about you want a majority of the people to be vaccinated. I think they said it should be around 60% or 60 to 70% of people. If they have the vaccine, then for the most part, everyone is kind of good. Because when you get when you're
Really?
vaccinated, I believe you do get COVID, but like,
The symptoms are just not.
yeah, you don't get the symptoms, and also you can't transmit it.
Yeah, but what if you and I don't get vaccinated and we're part of the 40% that don't, like we end up getting sick?
No, you might get sick, but at least you can't get the people who are vaccinated sick. So that's
But
up
how
to
do
you
we
at that
know?
point.
What are they going to do? Have like a friggin' scarlet V on their chest? That says
no,
vaccinated. That's
once
what
the
you know
government
who it
once
is.
the government knows that more than 60 or 70% have been vaccinated,
You think they'll open things up again like normal?
yeah, I think they'll open up things again. And because then the numbers, at least, because the reason that we have lockdowns is because the ICUs are overloaded,
yeah.
right? Like if you think
But
about
like,
it,
unless you really need to go to the hospital,
yeah.
like, why are you going? Because you feel sick?
Well, the issue is that because all the ICUs and the whole hospital is focused on COVID and overwhelmed by COVID, all the people who have, there are still regular sicknesses. There are still cancer patients. There are still people who need surgeries. All of these things are being put on hold,
Like
are being
imagine
put on the back burner.
you're cutting up some vegetables, you chop off your finger, and now you're like, shoot, if I go to the hospital, I might get COVID. Is it my finger or COVID? Which one do I pick?
See, so
Like, that's so scary.
yeah, and so that's the main thing that people don't realize. Like, the reason we have all these lockdowns is because the ICUs are overloaded, and
But the lockdowns aren't effective.
they are. So when people say they're not effective, it's like we have a clear correlation. Whenever the lockdowns are in place, the numbers go down. Whenever they're not in place, the number goes up. So there is a correlation there between the cases and
But I'm just saying
the
the
lockdown
way
measures.
the way that the lockdowns have been orchestrated, that's the word. They're not like the whole grocery store example.
Yeah.
You'll stand a meter apart in the line when it's like freezing cold and you're outside for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then you go inside and you're just like, hey, you could high five anyone. And you know what else I don't understand?
Mm-hmm.
The whole gloves thing.
What gloves thing?
People wearing gloves. Like, why are you wearing gloves? You're still touching everything.
Yeah, but as long as you don't touch your face with the gloves, then you're fine.
Like, unless you change the gloves every time you do something new, it doesn't make sense to wear gloves to me.
Well, that's probably what if those people are wearing gloves, like if people are taking the measures of actually wearing gloves,
Yeah.
I feel like those are the type of people who would like buy before they get into their car, they take off their gloves. Because I have seen sometimes at like Walmart parking lots, there are just gloves on the floor.
That's so annoying.
It is annoying, but I guess that's what they do because
That's
whatever.
so
But
messed up.
yeah, I've seen that. I still don't understand the whole anti-vax situation. This all started throughout COVID. They're like, how can we trust that it's going to be
because
used properly, or how can we trust that it was tested properly? Like, but the thing is, there is the information is out there, but if you think about it, people are like, okay, the first issue is like, how do they get it out so fast?
Yeah.
And the reason they got it out so fast is because all these companies were working and focusing on one thing, and a lot of the things that make these vaccines take so long, or these certifications take so long, is because the certification process itself, the paperwork and all that, is usually what holds up a lot of the process of actually making a vaccine or making some type of medicine.
But you know what makes me nervous?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Do these companies really care about saving the world, or do they care about making their $1 million?
Well, to counter that, it's like, does a company want that if something did happen to someone, or like it was actually turned out to be really bad, does the company want that type of publicity? Because if they have a bunch of bad cases like that, that company's done for. No one's gonna trust that company ever again. Their goal of course, is to make money and everything. But they do, of course, have a lot of doctors who are, working for the good of the people. But the company itself, of course, wants to make money. And they also want to make sure it's tested properly because they don't want the backlash if something does happen with one of their vaccines, or if it does end up having some type of negative effect on people, right? So
yeah, but how many times have you seen those infomercials that's like, that music like, da-da-da, if you've been one of the victims affected by da-da-da-da-da, please call this number so you can seek legal action or whatever.
But everyone's eyes are on the COVID vaccine. So it's harder to miss this type of thing.
That's
where
the anti-vaxxers come from, because any other vaccine took years to develop.
But the reason it took years is because they're waiting for grants for a lot of these vaccines. They're waiting for the certification process to be done. They're waiting for the paperwork to be done. But when all these companies are working towards one goal, a lot of those processes are fast-tracked. All the things that usually held up these doctors are being fast-tracked, so they don't have to worry about funding. They don't have to worry about certification process.
True.
They can test these people the moment that they get certified to actually go through clinical testing and testing it on people after they've tested it on animals first. So and they say like they've tested it on 45,000 people, not one death from this, not one death.
I also heard some shady things about who they were testing it on, but okay.
Yeah, but these are things we hear. None of them are. When you receive this information, you have to make sure to check multiple sources. But a lot of these things don't come from multiple sources. They come from one guy in his basement in the middle of like
why he got to be in the basement?
Utah.
Why he got to be in Utah?
I don't know. I just said some random state. Okay?
I know.
But yeah, it's just frustrating that there's this whole anti-vax situation that just recently gained a lot of steam during the COVID vaccination process. And I feel like it's really going to set us back from how fast we can get out. And then, of course, that's one side of it. But then there's also the side of people who don't like the lockdowns. And then you have states where, well, at least in America's case, where have no restrictions. And that will bleed over to other states. And it just makes it...
We're looking at you.
Exactly.
Florida, we're looking at you too.
And a lot of this can be prevented
yeah,
from happening by just following the rules of the restrictions.
Imagine how great of a society we would be if everyone followed the rules.
Yeah, and we would be in a lot better place if people just initially from the beginning followed even the minimum set of rules, but people weren't following those rules.
Because listen, I think if they had exaggerated it, yeah, like maybe that's a crime to like exaggerate a virus. But if they said, if you catch this virus, you will die, I'm pretty sure people would have followed the rules.
Yeah, and I know it affects older people a lot more, and that's what a lot of people say, like, oh, this is only for old people. Why not just let the older people
a lot of young people died too.
Exactly. There are a lot of young people dying. You just don't hear about it as much. But there are a lot of young people dying. There's a lot of examples of this, but that's being pushed down, and I feel like this whole propaganda of it all being fake or it not being as bad as it really is what's really at the forefront, and it's kind of making this all a lot worse than it really could be. And of course there are a lot of doctors and nurses who are suffering from this, committing suicide from this.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of healthcare workers who are literally like killing themselves out of the trauma that they're witnessing at the hospitals, and how they feel like no one cares for them because of the reaction to COVID. Like, it's a real thing. It's just, it wasn't communicated properly, and it all comes down to communication. I feel like it wasn't communicated properly. It wasn't treated as severely as it should have been treated initially, and it led to us a year later still being in this situation, and maybe for another year we'll still be in this situation. And people...
Let's not... Another year of this?
I don't know, man. We'll see. It really depends on...
Like, I know things aren't going back to normal anytime soon, but another year of this?
Yeah.
Come on. That's a toxic ass relationship. It's like a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Just when you think things are getting better, it's like, nope.
Exactly. And it's understandable from both sides. Like, even we got COVID because we didn't follow the rules completely either.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that was our
we're one of those people.
And the thing is though, like, look at how different our symptoms were. You had a headache.
Yeah, I had a headache. That's it.
That's all you had. I had every other symptom.
Yeah.
Except for the shortness of breath.
Yeah.
I lost my sense of taste, smell. I had the body aches. I had the chills. I had the fever. I had the cough. I didn't think I was gonna die.
Yeah.
But I was definitely like not okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just frustrating all around.
But I learned my lesson.
Hmm?
Like, I didn't see you for a month after that.
Oh yeah, exactly. See, so we actually followed the rules after that, but unfortunately, it took us actually getting it to truly understand the severeness of this COVID thing and how unpredictable it is. It really honestly, it just takes you getting it or someone in your family getting it and maybe passing away from it for you to truly understand the severity of the situation and take it more seriously. And you see that in everything, not only when it comes to COVID. Like, it's human nature in a way, right? Like,
sometimes you need to suffer from the consequences.
Exactly. To understand,
to learn a lesson.
Understand the situation. Unfortunately, we have to learn that way, but it is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're gonna end it. Hopefully, some of that was somewhat entertaining. I don't know. That was an interesting conversation. There's a lot more probably to it that we're leaving out, and it'll just probably come up in other conversations. But
it will.
And we're gonna leave it at that for now.
Exactly.
But yeah, thanks again for listening to the.
Thank you guys.
What are we calling this? Cousin Connection. Yeah.
We gotta talk about how we came up with that name. How I came up with that.
Oh yeah. How you quote unquote came up with that name. Come on, tell them.
Okay. So I think it was like a year ago, maybe even more than a year ago. I kind of brought up the idea of like starting a podcast to you, and you were like, maybe one day. Like, it wasn't something that you were like jumping to do. So then, Amir got really into podcasts. I got into podcasts, and we had this conversation one day where you were like, let's do a podcast. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, are you joking? And he had like a whole like written plan. And so we like talked about it one day, and he sent me a Google Docs, and the Google Docs had like topic ideas, ideas for what the podcast would be called, like, etc., all the good stuff. And so I did look at it. I looked at it, and I was like, okay, cool, we will revisit this again when we like start the first episode. So the day that we were initially supposed to start recording, he brought everything, and I was so excited because in my mind I thought of the best name. And I was like, oh my God, Amir, I figured out a name for us. He was like, what is it? I was like, Cousin Connection, because we have a Cousin Connection. And he looked at me and he was like, really, nigga?
Are you dumb?
Are you dumb? Are you dumb? And I was so like confident, like, this was my idea. And he was like, how are you just gonna steal my idea?
Did you not look at the document?
Yeah, and I was like, what are you talking about? And so we literally just pulled up that Google document, and it was the first.
Literally the first
name. I was like, oh shit, really? Like, my bad. I knew I saw it somewhere.
Yo, in my brain, I was like, she's joking. I legit thought you were joking at first.
No, I was like dead ass. Like, I really thought about that. I was like, what a beautiful name. It's great.
Oh my God.
And the funniest thing is that, like, the way that I built it up to him, I was like, yeah, I was thinking about this all week, and I was like, trying to picture our logo, and he was like, okay, what is it? And I was like, Cousin Connection. He was like, what?
And I pull up the document. I'm like, what did that say on the first line? Names for podcast, first one, Cousin Connection.
I can't believe I did that, and I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, wow, the audacity. Like, the actual audacity.
Okay, guys, thank you for listening. I know this one went on a bit long, but this
we had a lot to say.
Exactly.
Okay, we had a lot to say, and we appreciate all of you for listening. Tune into the next episode to hear more of our thoughts.